These are the new $99 Nothing Ear 3A, and in many ways, they're the absolute best earbuds for most people, offering impressive sound quality, great comfort, battery life features, and even better ANC than the more expensive Nothing Ear 3. And these offer a very useful feature that I've just never seen on another pair of earbuds. More on that in a minute, but first, let's take a step back and start off with the design. These are a very nothing looking pair of earbuds. The classic kind of transparent case, the bubbly design, very teenage engineering. And if you look at the case on the outside, you can see two little bubbles that kind of accent the earbuds. You've got 4 different colors: black, white, yellow, and pink. Of course, the yellow ones are my personal favorite here. And on the inside, on the left, you can see a little LED, but it's not just one LED, it's 3 LEDs in a stack for honestly a pretty neat aesthetic, but it's also functional to tell you the battery level and pairing mode and things like that. On the right side, you have your button to go into pairing mode manually. On the back, USB Type-C. We've got an aluminum hinge and a magnetic closure on here. And let's see how well they stay in the case. Start off with gentle shake, medium shake, and hard shake, and only one came out. So I'm not too worried about these falling out of the case. Both the case and the earbuds are IP54 water and dust resistant. It's pretty rare to see the case also have that rating. I do appreciate that. The design is overall quite slim, pretty compact. I like how it sits open on your desk if you need it to, but you do not have wireless charging. That's the first drawback we have on these earbuds. At $99, it's good that that's the only drawback so far. Looking at the earbuds themselves, I really appreciate that when you get up close, you can really admire the internal tech of this, but from a distance, you're not going to see that. It's much more subtle on the outside. You've got a red dot on the right and a white dot on the left, so you can clearly see which one's which. And you just have your accent color on the inside and a pretty dark, basically black stem on the outside. All of the vents and sensors on here, including the microphones, are really quite well hidden. They blend in quite naturally. And these do have an ear sensor, so when you put them in your ear, they'll automatically detect. When you take them out, they'll pause your music. One note with these, I've used a lot of Nothing earbuds in the past. The case is likely to get some scratches. That clear plastic, you're going to see that if you have keys in your pocket, for example. Now, moving on to sound quality. Overall, this is the most impressive part of these earbuds at $99. Quite good. Definitely very bass heavy. Actually, I would say extremely bass heavy out of the box, but most consumers are actually going to like that. Honestly, the bass is not terrible either, and the EQ is absolutely awesome. So bass heads are going to love these, but if you want to make them more neutral, you can absolutely do that very easily in the EQ. The mids can sometimes get a bit lost with the default tuning, but as I keep saying, the EQ is phenomenal. Any balance issues are easily fixed. The highs are crisp and detailed. Bass is mostly tight and controlled, but can be a tad boomy depending on the song. I would enjoy a bit more texture and fidelity on overtones, but honestly, that feedback is really only worth mentioning if these were 3 times the price. I found myself reviewing these as if they were $300 or $400 pairs of earbuds, and I can nitpick the audio and offer up some feedback, but I mean, that only makes sense if they were really expensive. For $99, these just destroy the competition. The sound quality is very capable, the tuning is very flexible, they can easily be adjusted, and the sound is just incredible on these for $99. These have 2 different codecs. LDAC is going to be the better one if you're on Android for higher resolution audio. If you're on an iPhone or other devices, they're going to default to AAC. Now, I'm going to show you more of the app in a minute, but I wanted to talk about that EQ a little more. I mentioned it a few times. Let me just show you what it can actually do. So if we tap on equalizer, there's simple EQs, and you can say more bass, more treble, voice. For someone who doesn't really want to tweak a lot, but you're like, I just wish there was more bass on here, that's a really good setup. I think that makes a lot of sense versus kind of matching genres. More people are going to resonate with this in my opinion. Then we have advanced, which anyone who wants to tailor their EQ is going to have an excellent time with this, where you're not only able to adjust, 10 different bands, 8 different bands there, but you can also change which frequency each band is going to be. You can choose the Q value of it, and of course the gain on it. So you really have basically a full parametric equalizer. You can then save that, you can share it. And if we go over to Explore, there's some pre-made ones that are curated by Nothing. You can go and download some of these and try them out. And as I said, you can actually share them as well. So if you have an EQ that you really like, please feel free to share it. Leave a comment down below. But honestly, sound quality, these sound way too good for $99. Now, active noise cancellation. Of course, you have to make compromises somewhere on a $99 pair of earbuds, but ANC isn't really the compromise either. These are actually better than the Nothing Ear 3, which were the flagship earbuds from Nothing not too long ago. These are cleaner, they have less noise. At high volumes, these absolutely crush the sound in a better way than the Nothing Ear 3, allowing less of the high end through. So by comparison, the Nothing Ear 3, when you're listening to like jet noises or something really loud and like a sound like that, they let more of the higher frequencies through that kind of sound a little bit like white noise. They're a little bit compressed, whereas these don't allow that through quite as well. They also block marginally more noise in general, so slightly stronger ANC on the low end, maybe by about 1 or 2 decibels. In a quiet room, these also sound silent. There's no artifacts or white noise, so I appreciate how clean the ANC was actually done here. The ANC is solid for this price, and it competes with other earbuds, honestly, maybe double the price, but certainly not as strong as the big three, Sony, AirPods, and Bose. When you're looking at those lower frequencies or voices or a lot of other just loud sounds, these are going to be solid, but they're not going to be competing with those $400 or $300 pairs of earbuds out there. So just want to be clear on that. I don't want to overhype these on their ANC capabilities. Decent, very clean, but they have their limitations. The transparency is a little bit less clean. There's some hissing and white noise for sure. You have decent volume, but it could be a tad louder in my opinion. And while it does sound relatively natural, it's not overly compressed or unbalanced. You're not going to forget that these are in your ears. They're not super, organic and natural feeling like the AirPods as far as transparency goes, and there's no adjustment in the app. But for, getting the job done, which I think most people using transparency just want to have it so they can hear if somebody like walks over to their desk and asks a question, or maybe they want to be aware of their surroundings when they're walking in the city, whatever it is, they certainly do get the job done. As far as controls go, these have pinch controls on each earbud, so you can pinch and hold. You can even do double pinch and hold, and if you pinch both buds at the same time, that's a feature I've never seen on any other earbuds, it unlocks another interesting, well, I'll talk about that in a second. But there's no swipe gestures for volume, a little bit of a downside with that, and there's no nodding or head gestures. Really, the industry of earbuds is adding a lot of extra controls for, things like that. These don't have that, just simple pinching, and they're kind of creative on how they set up the pinching. It's also customizable, so in the app, if I go down to controls, you can tap on the left or the right earbud. You can customize double pinch, triple pinch, pinch and hold, double pinch and hold, and pinching both buds. You cannot customize the single pinch. That's always just going to be answering calls or playing and pausing. But for each one, you can choose, from a couple different things. Each one's going to have slight differences, so you can't have full customization, but I still appreciate the customization that is available here. Now, I've kind of beat around the bush here a little bit too long, talking about that feature when you pinch both earbuds at the same time. The one feature that I said in the beginning of this video that I've never seen on any earbuds, this is an interesting recording feature. Now, a lot of earbuds try to add in some unique feature that you've never seen before, and a lot of times it's just a gimmick that you'll never use. This is something I actually think I will use. So one example of how you would use this is if you're on a phone call and you want to record something in the phone call, you don't always maybe your phone's in the other room or it's in your pocket or something and you want to just quickly record it, you can pinch both earbuds at the same time. The earbuds will record your phone call. They record both ends of the phone call, your voice and the other end, and they also alert both you and the other person on the line that the call is being recorded. Now, that can be a little bit unusual to do that. Like if you're talking to somebody and all of a sudden you start recording, they might be taken aback. But I think it makes more sense, for example, if you are maybe talking to your mechanic and they call you and they're like, hey, just so you know, we want to fix these things and it's going to cost this much. And then you're like, all right, great. And you hang up. And then later someone's like, oh, well, what's going on with your vehicle? And you don't remember the exact part that they mentioned on the phone call. Well, that's a good opportunity that you could have recorded that part of the phone call so you have it later. Maybe you don't have something to write it down. Somebody tells you some instructions. Again, recording phone calls like that can actually be so useful. That's the main thing that I think would be so useful to have, just a quick little double pinch and you're recording right away. You can record 30 to 60 second segments, but there's also another feature tied in with that. If you're not on a phone call, you can record other things too, basically anything going through the earbuds. So it doesn't really make sense for music. You're not gonna be pirating music with these. It's very low resolution and low quality. But if you are listening to a lecture or a podcast, or maybe you're listening to and maybe you're in a meeting, a live call, for example, you can just pinch on both at the same time, like I said, and you're able to record that. And you can actually go a step further. So if I go into the app, I go down to recordings, you'll see all of your recordings here. By the way, this pop-up, there is a little premium option for this, which it gives you basically better accuracy for the transcription, speaker identification, summaries, just more AI stuff. Honestly, this feels like nothing was adding this feature because they were trying to get you to subscribe to an AI thing, but you really don't need it, in my opinion. Just being able to play this back is fine. There's also a free version for transcribing things. So like this transcript right here, you can either do fast, you can do like the standard transcription, or you can pay for the the more accurate model there. I haven't had any issues with this, and if there is an issue, you can always just re-listen to it. But what I was going to say is if you go into settings here, you have first of all, you have a lot of storage. Apparently this can store up to 2 hours on the earbuds. I think it's very impressive. We also have the ability to customize what the recording window is, including retroactive recording, which I assume means it's just always recording and deleting it as it goes, because you could say, when you double pinch, record or save the last 30 seconds. Could be very useful, again, well, that's not going to be a phone call, but maybe in like a lecture or a podcast or something like that, a radio station thing. That could be really useful, but otherwise, you could, go forward up to 60 seconds into the future. You can choose the sound quality just for standard and pro. I set it on pro, and it's still like not really that great, but if you want more storage, maybe standard would be fine. You can choose the language here. That's going to be relevant for like transcription and stuff. And you can have the transcription mode. As I said, there's 3 modes: standard, fast, or precise versus fast, and then the pro if you pay for that plan, which I don't really have any need to upgrade to that plan. Once you're done with your recordings, it does take a second to actually send it over to your phone. And once you open it, then you can transcribe it. Like I said, you're able to play it back, you're able to crop it, and do some basic stuff, play it at different speeds, the usual stuff you'd have from like a soundbite. Now, talking about the other features and just the app in general, I think the app is really clean. I love the way Nothing set this up. You have your other Nothing products across the top. It tells you the battery life on them. You can customize the noise control. So noise canceling, you have low, medium, high, or adaptive. Transparency, like I said, you don't have any adjustment on that. You have spatial audio, but if you turn spatial audio on, it's going to change your EQ. So I usually don't keep it on. I'm not the biggest user of spatial audio. We've got the EQ down there. You've got low lag mode if you're doing a lot of gaming with these. The controls, of course, these do have multi-point connectivity. They can connect to 2 devices at the same time, maybe phone and laptop. You're watching a video, you get a phone call. When you answer the phone call, it'll automatically switch over to your phone, and that way, 1 pair of earbuds for 2 devices. It's just one of my favorite things. Device settings, there's not a whole lot here. You could just change the resolution, so LDAC or AAC. It's nice to see that in the app though. And we have in-ear detection as well as Find My Earbuds, but finding your earbuds just plays a chirping sound. I'll do that right now. You can kind of hear it. Wait, it's this one actually. It's not even much of a chirping sound. It's kind of a weird sound, but again, you can maybe find your earbuds if you drop it and it rolls away. Use that. Oh, and if you connect to a Nothing phone, I'm connected to a Galaxy S26 Ultra, but if you connect to a Nothing phone, you get a couple extra features, like you can talk to ChatGPT hands-free. Not really a game changer to me, but a little benefit if you have a Nothing phone. As far as fit and comfort goes with these earbuds, it's very similar to previous Nothing earbuds, very similar to AirPods. They stay in my ears very well. I find that both fit and comfort are solid. I feel like I could work out with these. They're not going to fall out. There's 4 different ear tip options, so you can go smaller, larger, depending on the ear. But, the default ones out of the box just feel really good to me. The battery life on these, well, you get a fast recharge, so 5 minutes of charging gives you 1 hour of listening. Presumably that's with like no ANC. So, in a pinch, that's kind of nice you have that. But I have huge respect for Nothing for showing the battery levels with different configurations. ANC, LDAC, different things like that. So if you don't have active noise cancellation on, and if you use the lower resolution codec, AAC, you get 10 hours of battery in the earbuds and 42 hours total, which is huge. But if you turn on ANC and LDAC, that's totally what I'm doing, you get 4.5 in the earbuds and 20 hours including the case. With no wireless charging, could be a little bit annoying, but it's honestly the only real compromise with these earbuds so far. Now, let's get into a microphone test. These are the microphones on the Nothing Ear 3A. I'm in a studio, so this should probably be as easy as it possibly could be, but let me know if these sound, robotic or compressed or anything. And now let's go outside and see how they block the louder environments. All right, so outdoor microphone test. There's some traffic behind me. There's some weed whackers and mowers running back there, and it's also a bit breezy. So let me know how these microphones perform in this louder environment here. All right, so the Nothing Ear 3A. They check a lot of boxes. $99 is a killer price. I think that's such a good deal for these. They sound good. The ANC is clean. It's not the most powerful, but it does a good job within its capabilities. I think the design is very impressive. You can get something more minimal. The black ones will just blend in. The white ones the same. Or you get something a little more fun and accented like the pink or the yellow ones. I think, of course the case might scratch in the future, but it's not really that big of a deal in my opinion. You can always cover the case with, stickers or skins or something like that. And that audio snapshot feature, you can be the judge. Is that a gimmick or is it actually useful? But I think the Nothing Ear 3A are pretty hard to deny that they're a really good value for a lot of people. Solid pair of earbuds, and again, $99. So let me know in the comments below what you think of these and what I should compare them to next.